Huge Power. It's been a favorite among Pokemon abilities since its release in Generation 3. But how strong are the Pokemon who get this ability actually? It might be stronger than you think. The description and mechanics of this ability are relatively straightforward. Well, at least the more recent descriptions. This ability doubles the attack stat of the Pokemon with it. In this video, we will take a look at how strong the Pokemon with this ability actually are, and I believe the strongest of them will really shock you. Now, I touched on this in another video, but wanted to go more in depth with just how big this difference is. I see a lot of people get the effect of doubling the attack stat confused. It's an honest mistake since Pokemon base stats aren't really linear in how they scale. We're going to cover why this is real quick, but if you want to go right to the Huge Power Mons, I'll leave a timestamp here. For example, at level 100, a Pokemon with base 50 attack in theory should have twice as much attack as a Pokemon with 25 attack, right? In a simpler world, this would be correct. But when we look at the actual stat that is used in battle, we see this is not the case even when fully invested with EVs and a positive nature. The way base stats work are pretty complicated, so I'm not going to fully explain them, but basically what you need to know is at level 100, each base stat point a Pokemon has will add 2 points to the actual stat. So a base 50 attack mon will have 136 attack, and a base 51 attack mon will have 138. At level 50, you would just half this, so your raw attack stat is boosted 1 point for every base stat. The way EVs work with this is linear. Every 4 EVs a Pokemon has, it raises the raw stat by a value of 1 at level 100. So essentially, 8 EVs in attack would be like adding 1 point to the base stat of your mon. Each Pokemon can invest up to 252 EVs in a single stat, effectively giving them 63 bonus points to the raw stat when fully invested. And this scales equally no matter what the Pokemon's base stat is. This is why the damage difference between, say, a base 80 attack mon and a base 100 attack mon, both with max EVs and attack, isn't that huge. Natures, on the other hand, do make a difference when it comes to the base stat. Since natures increase one stat by 10% and lower another by 10%, a higher raw stat will be boosted greater than a lower one since it's based on percentage. A Pokemon with a raw stat of 100 will be boosted to 110 with a positive nature, and lowered to 90 with a negative one. A Mon with 200 in a raw stat will be boosted to 220 with a positive nature, and lowered to 180 with a negative one. With that explanation out of the way, I hope you can see why a base stat of 50 when boosted by Huge Power doesn't simply become equivalent to doubling it to base 100 in the stat. Nope. So now let's see what the actual base stats of the Mon with Huge Power would be. We're going to start out small and work our way up to the behemoths. For this examination, we will look at the raw stat at level 100 with a perfect 31 IVs in attack, no EVs, and a neutral nature. We will then look at it with max EV investment and a beneficial nature. The weakest mons with access to Huge Power are the first 2 stages of the Azumarill line in Azurill and Marill. These blue balls of fury have a whopping base 20 attack, which is only better than the likes of the Blissey line, the Ugly Fish Duo, and our main Thug Shuckle. This is a seriously low base stat, so having Huge Power shouldn't really do much, right? Well, yes and no. It depends on how you look at it. With no investment or nature, this mon hits 76 attack at level 100. Huge Power doubles this to 152, which is equivalent to a Chimchar with the same investment in nature. This brings these mons' effective base stat to 58. But when we fully invest our 252 EVs and slap on an Adamant Nature, we ironically get to 152 attack. So doubling that raw stat to 304 after Huge Power, we equal a max EV invested Tyrant with an Adamant Nature at base 89 attack. So we can say at level 100 max attack, Huge Power, Azurill, and Marill effectively have a base 89 in attack. Moving on to something a little bit stronger, we have Bunnelby at 36 base attack. This is notably higher than the likes of Ledian, Wobbuffet, and Luvdisc. Uninvested Bunnelby hits 108 in its attack stat at level 100, which doubles to 216 after Huge Power. This already bumps this bunny to legendary status, as it now ties with the likes of Latios and Darkrai, who also reached 216 attack uninvested at base 90 attack. But when we pump those stats into Bunnelby and give it an Adamant Nature, we see its raw stat of 188 double to 376. This brings its attack stat to be equal of a max attack Tyrantrum, giving Bunnelby an effective 121 base attack stat when fully invested. And if you don't believe me, look at this calc of them using Brick Break on Melmetal doing the same damage. As we move into some fully evolved mons, Drop a comment on which Huge Power Mon is your favorite, or which Mon you think should be blessed with this ability. Now we have the actual Pokemon that are viable at level 100. Starting with Azumarill in its base 50 attack uninvested, it isn't actually too far off being doubled to 100 base attack. It hits 136 attack, which doubles to 272. This matches up with Grapplock's 118 base attack, which is also 272 when uninvested. When adding EVs in a positive nature, however, we see Azu's attack stat jump to 218, which doubles to 436. This is just 2 points below a Mega-Beedrill with max attack, which hits 438 attack. Since each base stat adds 2 points to the raw stat at level 100, this means Azu would be 1 point lower than Mega-Beedrill's 150 base attack, giving it an effective 149 base attack, which no other Mon has. While not quite as good competitively, Diggersby does have a slightly higher base attack than Azumarill. Coming in at 56 base attack, Diggersby has a raw attack stat of 148 uninvested. This is 296 after Huge Power, giving it the same uninvested stat as base 130 attack Mons like Urshifu and Garchomp. When we max out Diggersby attack stat, it becomes 232, which doubles to 464. This is 4 points higher than base 160 behemoths like Slacking, Palafin Hero, and Hoopa and Bound. This would give it a kind of a weird stat in between 161 and 162. We'll just say 161 for now. I think there's some weird stat jump point with the EVs in nature here, so we'll round down. Now the next two Mons we'll cover don't have the Huge Power ability, but rather a signature ability, Pure Power. It has the same effect as Huge Power, so I wouldn't exclude them from this list. First we have Meditite, a fighting psychic Mon with pretty mediocre stats. A base 40 attack puts it at 116 attack uninvested, which turns into a solid 232 after Pure Power. This is equal to the Elemental Monkeys, who hit 232 uninvested with a base 98 attack. When we pump Meditite full of protein and give it max attack, it turns into 196 attack, doubling to 392. This would be equal to a Terrakion with max attack, which hits 392 as well at 129 base attack. This little diaper lad's close combat would hit Mons for the same damage as Terrakion, which is crazy to think. Moving on to the top hitter who still has item flexibility, we have Meditite's evolution Medicham in its 60 base attack. With no investment, Medicham hits 156 attack. This is double to 312, putting it just above Pheromosa's 310 stat at base 137 attack, and just below Buzzwole's 314 attack at base 139. Medicham uninvested is at 138 base attack effectively. When invested, Medicham bumps up to 240, which is then raised to 480. This is just 2 points back of Kieran Black in its monstrous 170 base attack, as it hits 482 attack. So Medicham fully invested effectively hits a base attack of 169. Nice. Up until now, all these Pokemon had others to compare to when it comes to attacking prowess. When making these Mons, they at least seemed to know how strong these abilities are and gave Mons with it a relatively low base attack stat and not too much more going for them. We see a Mon like Azu do so well due to its solid bulk and typing, with access to good stat priority as well. These Mons are pretty slow for the most part too, which helps to keep them balanced. But these last two Mons, they gave solid attacking stats even without Huge Power. They also have other characteristics that make them good. These are the two Mega Pokemon with these abilities, Mega-Medicham and Mega-Mawile. Two notoriously hard to switch into Mons due to how much damage they can throw out in just one attack. Mega-Medicham already carries a solid base 100 attack. This doubles its 236 raw stat to 472 before any EVs or natures. This is already way above Mega Mewtwo X, who has the highest base attack stat at base 190 and a raw stat of 416 uninvested. We can sort of compare this to Stack Attack's defense stat, which hits 458 at base 211, but Medicham is still higher and will hit a base attack stat of 218 uninvested. However, when we max out Mega-Medicham's attack, we get 328, which doubles to 656, which is pretty crazy to be able to have that stat whenever you hit the field. This gives Mega-Medicham an effective 249 base attack stat. This stat is comparable to Zacian Crown in Generation 9. At 150 base attack, and with its Intrepid Sword boost, it hits 657 attack when maxed out. The last mon, and the one you might have been waiting for, is Mega-Mawile, a mon that not only carries huge power, but one, if not the best typings in the game. At 105 base attack after Mega Evolving, this mon hits 246 attack, which then turns into 492. Only 4 points back of Mega Steelix, Mega Aggron, and Shuckle's defense at base 230. When you max out his attack, which most people would advise you to do when using this mon, Mega-Mawile reaches 339 attack and 678 after huge power. There are no comparables to this naturally, but it works out to almost the same attack stat a Mega Gyarados or Mega Pinsir would have if they got a Moxie boost before Megaing and then Mega Evolved. For actual base stats though, this comes up to a whopping 259 effective base attack. We are lucky that these mons can't hold items. Now next time you hear someone say these abilities double the base stat, or don't understand how the raw stats work in Pokemon, I want you to remember this video and share it with them. If you watched all the way through, hit that like button and make sure to check out this video next. Take it easy, buds.